and he will not be able to read. Now lend against this person. But also, I want to echo this. For digital lenders, it is speed versus structure. That whereas banks have, so you'll defraud from MTN and come and defraud. So you'll defraud from MTN and come and defraud from Airtel. And before you know it, the guy does not even have a SIM card. He has to use neighbors' SIMs or mobile phones, or probably he actually has to register a SIM card in Jonathan's names when he's mid-read. When his name is different. So it has got to that level. So thing is, these digital lenders, whereas they are lending at a high rate, they are also justified in a way because the exposure is too high. Collection is very, very high. People are indisciplined mid-read, I must tell you. That the time someone wants money, they want money. But when it comes to the time to pay, they're not willing to pay. Then you have to feel for the person who fends for this money, because probably this money was picked from the bank. And the financial institution that you picked money from will not understand that probably the default rate is at 40%. Previously, before these digital lenders came on board, and before actually people got to become indisciplined in borrowing and repayment, the default rate was between 10 to 13%. And you can check with some of the reports previously. But now the default rate can get to as high as 45%. For microloans can get for as high as 83.1%. So ideally, almost the whole portfolio is exposed. So it's like crisscrossing between the borrower and the lender.
You talked about the connectivity between digital lending apps, but maybe let me cross to Mr. Othman Mayanja on that one. What I would refer to as the digital poverty trap. That, okay, I have this loan and probably I'll borrow, I get a next loan to pay for this one, and then the same kind of thing. But also there is the whole idea of I will borrow here, not pay, buy another new SIM, like Jonan is saying. How do we get to regulate this, especially on the digital apps? Because I want to believe with artificial intelligence and the digital conversation, it even becomes easier to know. If you're moving from, for example, even with the physical banks, if I'm moving from bank A to bank C and I am a defaulter, it is easy to be able to trace up.
Correct. So there's a lot of things in there. And the first thing, I think, for me, there are two sides to this coin. The first part of it is on the consumer side. Consumers need to be educated to understand why borrow, when borrow, and how do you safeguard yourselves when you do borrow? Because you can't fall into a debt trap.
And maybe what to borrow for. That's also another important thing.
That was going to go to the purpose of borrowing. Now, consumption loans are the most difficult. If you're going to borrow just to spend money on a wedding, on a gift, on your bills, you're in a difficult place already. And you have to trade very carefully to ensure that you get back into the black. Now, most consumers don't really appreciate that. So you end up borrowing today, and then tomorrow you're borrowing to pay back the borrowing that you had to pay back that has now come up for repayment. So the first thing is, what are you borrowing for? The second,
you don't even feel the impact because, I mean, what you borrowed for just took up the money and you don't see the
there's
residue.
No benefit. It has not increased your accounts. They're actually designed for small